Hey, and welcome back to the next episode. Today I have the lovely Charlie with me. And actually thinking about it, I think it was funny because obviously we were chatting about coming on the pod. Yeah. And I remember reaching out to you being like, what PT course did you do? It came up and I was like, wow, this feels like ages ago.
That's scary.
But I think it's funny, and I don't know whether you did it when you were, because how long have you been a PT now?
7 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know whether you did the same, but when obviously I was like, what the hell, how do I even go about this? You kind of connect with like other PTs, other coaches. Like, I don't know whether you kind of did the same. It's just quite a nice community because everyone's so different.
Yeah, it is, to be fair. Everyone's so nice as well. I did the same, exactly the same. I remember I dropped out of uni and I was like, what do I want to do? I was so passionate about fitness.
It's hard. What did you do at uni?
Computer science.
Oh, very different.
So yeah, very big change. But yeah, I did the same. I was messaging people. I used to get taken the mick out of a little bit actually by certain people, in a nice way. But because I would like, if I wanted to learn something or know something, I'm a chatterbox. I would just message someone and ask. But actually, it's kind of paid off in a sense.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's also like from where I've sort of like merged with people and got to where I am is 100% because you build through other people. Yeah. And that's not even to say that anyone's better than anyone else. And I think that people almost disown like, oh my God, you have to do it all by yourself. And it's like, well, how?
Yeah, I think
you can't do it without, other people's like opinions and their learning curves and what they've done and what, know, and things like that, which I think is pretty cool about the industry. And obviously we go to the same gym as well. How long have you been at PAG now as well?
You know what? A year or two?
Been on and off since it opened.
So, I had one little stint where I wasn't there. And then it's too good, I had to come back.
Best place it is to be. So obviously that's a little setup into the industry of where you are. So with 7 years, I mean, it's crazy to think I've had my business 4 years in January, which terrifies me. It's gone so quick. And to sort of be able to do this as well for you guys listening. And where, obviously you were saying you went to uni, did you kind of always love fitness whilst you were at uni at all? Like, well, how did you get to, I guess, kind of where you are now?
That's funny stuff.
Way back when,
it seems so, I still feel so young, but it seems so long ago. So I was basically, long story short, I was out of shape at school, let's say. Do you know what I mean? Always like the chubby kid, maybe. Do you know what I mean?
I showed someone a picture of what I looked like on the first day of year 7 the other day, and their jaws actually dropped. And I was like, I don't know whether to be offended or not.
People think you've always been in shape if you're a coach, but you're not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most coaches are a coach because they have never been in shape. Do you know what I mean? Or they weren't in shape. But so I was sort of that kid at school. I kind of embraced it, took the mick out of it myself and had a laugh. Do you know what I mean? I didn't care. And then it gets to an age where I think you sort of like, you want to build your confidence maybe. Yeah. I mean, not everyone, but I really wanted to change and build my confidence.
And exactly that more than anything else, build your confidence.
Yeah.
And it really changes the game for your entire perspective on life in general.
Yeah.
I think we are so used to, I think most people, obviously not necessarily individuals, but the majority of people put themselves down, how they absolutely annihilate themselves the second they wake up, the second they look in a mirror. And I think actually, just by speaking a little bit more positivity, words, my goodness me, positively about yourself and it only builds that confidence and for what you're doing and achieving in that time.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely massive. I'm massive on mindset reading, all that sort of stuff, which I'm sure we'll go into. But the way you speak to yourself is like, I always say, if you tell yourself you're going to do something, you'll be able to do it. If you tell yourself, if you go for a run and you say, I can't run 10 miles, you're never going to run 10 miles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've got to say, you can do it. And it sounds so simple, but I think that switch in saying, I can do it, or one day I'll be able to do it, rather than I'll never be able to do that. The people say never, will never be able to do that.
Yeah.
You're telling yourself that.
100%. And is that kind of where that sort of like domino started to come when you were from from school? I mean, school to college to uni, it's
mad.
It's a crazy time in terms of everything just that's going on as well.
Yeah. So I guess I got into gym. So obviously lost a lot of weight pretty much. Still sort of, I wasn't really pushed at all, to be fair. Still, my parents were pretty chilled out, but I still sort of thought I need to go to uni. I need to do the computer science thing because I got a good grade in it or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I went and I think I walked into the room and I quickly realised that I was very different to everyone on my course, which didn't matter at the time. I was like, I'm passionate about it, it's fine.
Yeah.
It was pretty apparent pretty quickly that I loved the social life there. I enjoyed speaking to people.
Where did you go?
Going out, Manchester.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, great time.
Great night out, yeah. So I love that part. But it was quickly apparent that I absolutely hated the course. I wasn't passionate about it enough anymore. I was in the gym more than I was there. I went through everything. I passed everything the 6 months I was there, but it was very apparent very quickly that it wasn't for me. And I think it was a work ethic thing, to be honest. I couldn't.
And did you like when you were sort of going through that process? 'Cause that must have been pretty weird to, because there's so much pressure as well when you go to uni. You must finish uni, you must do this, and you must get a degree. And I even think, even in college, I don't know what it was like. Where did you go at sixth form?
Yes, I went Yateley.
Yateley, okay.
Yeah.
So I think so many people, it wasn't so much at my college because I went to Guildford and did dance, but I think so many people are like, oh, you must go to uni. And it's like, oh, well, you know, actually you don't have to. Like there's so many different routes that you can take. And through that, obviously, where you sort of started to get into the gym, did you actually understand it? Obviously, compared to what you know now, how would you compare? And I guess because a lot of people out there think, oh, you know, it's a lot, like you learn a lot and it's a lot of information. I mean, even when you sort of set someone a plan, it's you give them so much information, you're thinking, please don't be overwhelmed because it is a lot. And I think I didn't even know what calorie deficit was when I first started getting into the gym. You know, it's crazy to think about. And did you start thinking about that sort of thing, or did you kind of just go, I'm going to the gym, I'm moving a little bit more and you know, being a little bit more mindful?
No, I'm probably, I don't know, maybe I'm a bit of an anomaly in the sense that I was weird, so I'm a bit of a, I'd say a goon in a sense. This probably comes from my computer science background. I look into things, I overthink everything, and it benefits me in some ways, but probably in an emotional way, it doesn't benefit me. So what I did is I was like, I loved YouTube and I still do now. So I was watching Christian Guzman, all the OGs, Matt Ogus, all that sort of people, Joe Delaney. And so that gave me a massive base knowledge from the age of say 14, 15. So before I'd even started training, I knew when I go to the gym, I need to be in a deficit. I need to be this and I need to be that. So obviously I knew nothing compared to what I knew now, but in a weird light, I actually knew roughly
quite
how
a
to
good setup.
Yeah, I had maybe a more setup than people usually have. Like we already met, like me and my mate Zach. We went in the gym. We already had a program, but we'd made ourselves. We already sort of knew what calories to track. We all started hitting our protein. Do you know what I mean?
To a wicked start. That's insane. And I guess, like you say, it probably comes from that background of where you sort of felt so passionate about your computer science and stuff at the time. And I always think that, you know, even though, yes, like obviously both you and I super into the gym, whatever, actually without our backgrounds prior to that, we wouldn't be in that same position. And I think that I wouldn't be in where I am now without doing dance and sort of feeling a lot stronger and wanting to understand sort of the body so much more. And then obviously bodybuilding just took over. But so when did you feel there was a lot of pressure sort of coming into dropping out of uni or wanting to go into that?
I did feel a lot of pressure, but it's funny because anyone who knows me, my family, my parents, whatever, but they're very chill and they're very like whatever. There was actually no pressure from them, but I put the pressure on myself. You know what I mean? So
it's kind of I guess you might have created that perception of what people are going to think from the outside in. Really, it does not matter at all. No. You do what you want and you do what's right, 100%. But I think that can be really tough sometimes, and it can really eat away at people.
100%. I think it was. I mean, looking back now, it's the best thing I ever did, and it's not just because there's nothing against uni. I have nothing against it. I think it's great, but I wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't go for those 6 months.
Yes.
But at the same time, it was the best thing I ever did because it made me grow, and I think it gave me the kick up the arse to be like, crap, right, I've dropped out now. I felt like a failure, which again was my own head. No one said I was.
It's tough.
But I think even to this day now, I think I can't stop. I need to keep going because I should have stayed at uni if I stopped. Like, do you know what I mean? That's sort of what I think. It sounds bad.
And it's also having that perception of sort of why you are here, but because of that. And so I guess, again, same to that sort of positivity side of things, you know, looking at it actually, even though, yes, I did drop out and it was probably a bit chaotic when you first came out of it. I can't even imagine. But actually then there's a huge positive because you're now where you are.
Yeah, no, it's bad. I think it does change your mindset as well once you've, like, you know, with gym, the fact that I dropped out and the fact that I, not even quickly, I didn't know what I was doing for 6 months. I was I was still trying to do computer science, actually. I was trying to do apprentices and all this sort of stuff. And I deep down knew I wanted to do fitness. And eventually I accepted it and realised it was almost a thing that computer science is meant to be this great thing and you're a programmer and you're supposed to earn lots of money. Do you know what I mean? All this that was in my head.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to drop out and I want to be a coach, but it wasn't like it is now. It's very glamorised coaching now, and it wasn't like that back at the time.
Yeah.
So it looked at as maybe a downgrade, but I mean, it's definitely not a downgrade. If you're doing something you enjoy, it's definitely not a downgrade.
100%. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's the biggest upgrade you could ever make because actually you're going to be so much happier. And I think as well, you know, people do. I think it comes from both sides. Like you say, now people coming into the industry, it's very, very different. I mean, I've only been in it for 4 years. I can't really speak for the long term of it. And I imagine coaches above us, you know, would think completely differently as well. But it's just crazy how that perception of what your job should be, what you should do, and what you should earn, and the age you are, and the things that you're really good at. Like, you know, it's kind of just following those paths, but it's really hard to figure that out as well, because so many people are like, what do you want to do? And it's like, oh, I don't know.
I know. I think it is hard as well, because again, like it's funny because I'm in my business fully online now, so I'm in the online space. But I almost not disagree, but I almost disagree with the fact that these people saying follow your passion, follow your dream, follow this. I get follow your dream, but I don't actually agree sometimes when people say you have to do what you're passionate about and you have to work in it, because I think sometimes it can be the negative. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it can be a negative.
Yeah, no, 100%.
But I'm still passionate about tech. I love all my computers. I was saying about the mics before we started. I love all this stuff. Like, I still love tech, and it's helped me in social media a little bit.
Yeah.
So I haven't built a business in that, but I've built a business in something I'm passionate about. But I think it can come a negative. You hear some people say they try and be a coach, and because they love training so much, they stop liking training.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And I also think people do it like because they love training, they should be a coach, when actually sometimes that's not the case as well.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just following the domino effect of those pathways that kind of lead, and if they're opening, cool, keep going. See if it changes that door, then also go for it. Because I never planned to get my PT qualifications, and then COVID happened, and I left uni in COVID year. So my final performances were all cancelled, and we had to do a presentation on them instead. So I was like, sod this, I'm furloughed from the job that I worked at the time, so I just got my PT qualifications then.
Mad.
But I also think now, I don't know how people do full-time courses and a full-time job. Like, I had obviously the benefit of being in lockdown, but it's crazy, and that was never my intention. I was going to go into the dance industry, but that was just as messed up because of COVID. But it's crazy how it all kind of like pans out, even though that's not the complete direction that you were set to go in. Like you said, you went to uni to do this, to do that, to think about that, and actually it's like, oh, diversion.
I think it's like every little thing, good and bad, has a direct response on where you are now. Do you know, a direct correlation of where you are now? And it's hard to think that at the time. Do you know what I mean? But even when bad things happen now, I think, it's a challenge. I'll get through it. I'll push through it. Do you know what I mean? You don't feel like that every single day, but you try as hard as you can to think like that, because it's the only way to think.
Otherwise, you just torture yourself. And I think it's, I say a lot, and I've said to a lot of clients recently, life's too short to absolutely butcher yourself every single day. So even if there is a challenge like ahead, or, you know, life happens, as I like to say, because we can't help that. You know, if you think down of it, you're only going to beat yourself up further and feel rubbish. So at least if you can sort of have that outlook, easier said than done. And people always say to me, you're always so positive. And I'm like, I try, but actually it reflects on how I think about life more than anything else, and sort of my job. And how did it take you, like, when you came out of uni and into sort of the industry? Have you did you do PT as well? Did you go into a gym? Because you're obviously, like you say, you're fully online now.
It's funny, again, very weird way of doing it. So I straight away got a mentor, which again wasn't very popular back then. So Fraser, you know Fraser. So I saw he was doing well in a sense of PT. He was quite busy. He was doing it a different way from home.
Was that someone you just saw on Instagram?
I didn't know him at all.
You didn't know him?
On Instagram.
Wow.
I thought, if you don't, the way everything worked with me was, I've got nothing to lose.
Yes.
I literally dropped out of uni. I was on a computer science degree. I dropped out after 6 months. I have nothing to lose. But again, I think when you have nothing to lose, that's your benefit. That's your pro. That's the thing that you should. That's the thing that should drive you. So I messaged him. Long story short, we had a call. I started paying him monthly for mentorship to help me build a business.
Because no one teaches you how to do that.
No, and then obviously
unless you have those tools in the bank.
100%. And I think that's what most coaches, they think, I've got a six pack, I've got this, I've got that, I could be a coach. But it's massively about, obviously you need to do your qualification, which I was doing at the time. But you also need to learn sales and marketing, because if you don't learn sales and marketing, then you're not going to be able to sell and market yourself. I did that. Long story short, I actually started PTing at his place. And we just did like a split sort of thing where I was doing some clients in times he wasn't in there. And very quickly obviously he drilled this into me as well, but I was maybe naturally a bit entrepreneurial at the same time. I was obviously every time I'd go in there, I'd be thinking, cool, but I'd be getting this if I was doing it myself. Do you know what I mean? In terms of the money aspect. Because obviously a gym takes a percentage, or they take a percentage. So I begged my dad to convert the garage into like a small home gym. And it wasn't a gym, it was with all his work stuff in there, etc. And at first I think he was a bit reluctant, and then when it started to pick up for me, I was like, I've got 5 clients, I've got 10 clients. I was like, Dad, I'm earning this, but that Fraser's taking this. Do you know what I mean? And not Fraser, not nothing bad at Fraser, but at the end of the day, he was running the business as well.
Insight as well, more than anything else. And I think a lot of people, more so probably in the corporate world, it's very taboo. Like
Yeah.
it's very much like, oh no, what I earn is what I earn.
Yeah.
And it's not really spoken about. Now, obviously, yes, we don't need to,
Yeah,
go into like huge extravagance about it. But I think actually having your no, you don't know.
Yeah.
You have no idea what's best to like gauge your pricing or how
No.
to sort of map your packages out or like depending on what you're offering for online, the different things you can offer.
Yeah.
You don't have a clue. And understanding sometimes and having insight from someone else or a business mentor to understand that is so, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I speak about this with a couple of my friends, and I think it's not, no one sort of goes blabbering about sort of what you do and all of this about the money side of things, but actually it's like, oh well, this is kind of my insight of how I run things, and it could be useful for you to know.
Yeah, 100%. I think the best thing is to speak to other people. Do you know what I mean? And again, like, the money thing is really, it's one of those things that people don't want to speak about. And obviously, you don't have to tell people what you're earning, but at the same time, it's nice to know what they're charging, what they do, and if someone's charging more than you, their service might be better. It doesn't mean they're cocky or they think they're
100%.
better.
No, 100%.
The service might be better.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And also, then it's kind of that like, oh, what sort of things do you know if that's something you aspire to, or if they inspire you yourself, oh okay, could I use some tools in the bank to make my service better to then work to that level more than anything else.
Yeah. And to be fair, that's what a lot of that I took obviously from having mentors, from Fraser and other mentors. And I went into, I mean, it goes back to the story kind of thing. I went into like, I started PTing. I convinced my dad.
Love that.
Saved up money, bought all the equipment. Very simple stuff like barbell, TRX. You know what I mean? So I obviously didn't have the full functions of like a gym.
Yeah.
And very quickly started like that. So
you can do so much though.
Yeah, you can.
And it's to those out there who do have their little home set up, or I don't know, I have quite a few mums on my team who only have like a certain small amount of equipment at home, and there is so much you can do and you can get the intensity out of it.
Yeah, you can.
Obviously, it's great having the benefit of the gym. Like, we both gym goers ourselves, so we would always advocate that. But it's, there is so much you can do with a little amount of equipment.
Yeah. And I think I learned that pretty quick because again, and this was, I did have massive self-doubt. I might look what I've done now that I didn't, but I had massive self-doubt. I remember saying to Fraser, why would people pay me? Why would people do this?
Yeah.
And over time, obviously, you get better.
It is a bit weird to think. I said to one of my clients the other day, I was like, I essentially get paid to talk. I was like, whether it's online and I'm in your check-in, or if I'm like babbling to you during sessions. But it's quite fun to go nerdy as well. Like when people ask you questions, and I'm like, I love it. Wouldn't have it any other way. But then when I actually deep it, I'm like, oh, okay, I do actually just get paid to talk.
It is true. That's what PT is. I think PT is a massive. And that, you know what? Someone asked me the other day, because I'm online now on PT, going off direction a little bit, but. Do I miss PT? Do you know what I mean? Because I do the odd one phone now to get for people, see people sometimes, and I was sort of saying it's hard because the scalability of online and the life it gives you, it's amazing, it's insane. I'm very techie, so I like the social media side, but at the same time, I think you're never going to be able to replace meeting up with your clients, seeing them, doing the photo shoots.
It's great.
It's the best thing ever when you actually see. And for me as well, I remember when I first did a shoot with people, I'd gone fully online. It was COVID as well, massively around similar back then. First did a shoot with like 5 people. I was like, it sounds weird, but I was like, oh my God, this is real. Like these 5 people.
I've actually never seen you before.
Yeah, I've never seen you before. And you do actually look well better than you did. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds silly, but obviously you know their weight, you know their stats, etc. But seeing someone in person and speaking to them and getting them to do a testimonial and them speak about you, it's like, yeah, they've told me this anyway over WhatsApp, but wow, it's actually properly real when you see them. Do you know what I mean?
And it's really rewarding, and you can't, it's just so different, and probably quite nice that you can sort of do the odd bit, sort of PT here and there. And then obviously the shoots are just epic. Sort of having 2 this year have just been awesome to be able to see and really live and breathe what they're achieving. And you kind of, I've spoken about this with other coaches, both you and I have done shoots as well. And it changes that perspective because you know exactly what they've been through. And the like explosion on that day, like it's exciting, like you're buzzing. It's like D-Day. And it's awesome to be able to experience that from the other side of them for them to do.
I think it is. And as well, like you said, I'm a massive believer in, like, I would never coach someone to do something that I haven't done, in a sense. Do you know what I mean? I know you can have the qualifications. You might say I've done a half marathon, and you can teach someone to do a marathon. Do you know what I mean? Those sort of things are fine, but in the fact that in knowledge and also in the experience, you know what they're going through, you know how tough it is.
And it's being relatable to them as well, but also like that giving them that sort of determination through their journey. Because if you can't relate, it's a bit like, how else do you support that more than anything? Because that's what you want as a coach. You want to give the most support to your team. So it's just passing that on to them more than anything else.
100%. I think the more relatable you can be as a coach and for your niche and for your clientele, the the better you're going to do in a sense. I mean, because it's all well and good you being this knowledge bomb, but if you're not relatable and you don't do the things they do, and you can't relate to a sense of their life and how they feel, I think that people won't connect. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And I guess that's kind of where you're like, when you're explaining stuff, you just got so much more context to it.
Yeah.
So it's quite I guess, to where you are now. I mean, you do a lot now. You're fully online, doing loads more shoots and things with clients. Obviously, Instagram and stuff. I don't know whether you've seen, if you are listening, obviously, please let Charlie know if you sort of see his videos. But they're quite, like, you got quite a similar vibe. But they're great because I think so many people look at certain foods or certain drinks even, and they sort of go, oh, I can't have that. And actually, so for those who don't know, obviously, what kind of vibes you're giving off at the moment in terms of your content, I think it's fantastic. It's, how would you describe it?
Yes, this is a funny one. This is very recent. So with my content at first, years ago, and coming into the industry, I was sort of like, right, I need to be quite hard. I need to be quite on it. I need to be like, you do this, you do that. If you're not doing that, you should be doing this. Do you know what I mean? I used to be maybe I was more of a bodybuilding vibe, bodybuilding training, but without the bodybuilding physique. Do you know what I mean? That was the way I was sort of rolling things. And recently, I've actually invested in myself in terms of content, things like that, and looked at people who were doing well and thought, I just need to be myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And since January, the last 6 months, I've really just played on, right, what do I think? Do you know what I mean? What do I do?
Yeah.
And like literally, I'll be thinking about something, and I'll be like, all right, I have bagels. That people think bagels are bad. I'm doing a film reel on bagels. So my sort of approach to people who haven't seen them is sort of just like, look, I'm very chilled out. You can eat what you want. You can drink what you want in moderation. But at the same time, I'm very heavy on results. Like, yes, I'm very chilled out, and my content's probably a bit witty and a bit jokey sometimes. But I always say, I want to joke.
Work is still done.
Yeah. But every reel should be educational. And as long as if I'm joking and showing personality, that's cool. But at the same time, as long as you're getting educated, that's
100%. And I think as well, it's us being real as coaches. Like, when people, and I'm so here for sort of, people, especially more so in the bodybuilding industry, that's like, no, you can't do this in off season and you can't do that. You can. And also I think the balance of life is, next level. Like we need that, and to be able to like, actually you can go out for a drink, and it's not so. There's different phases. Obviously, yes, if we're in a strict dieting phase, there's times that, like you say, everything in sort of moderation when we're in those phases, but you can also live your life. No one's here to sort of pull you back on that. Yeah.
And again, I've been with filming the reels. I've been I just checked earlier, one's nearly on 4 million where I'm talking about wine, and it is scary. But also when I was filming them, and when I script them as well to help me out massively, help me points, do you know what I mean? All that sort of thing. Yeah. When I was doing that, I am still, and I always am very conscious of like, I don't want to attract people who just think you can drink this, you can go mad, and you can still get in shape, because that's a complete lie. Do you know what I mean? You can drink 100%. Wine, and I'm joking around for the video, but it is all in moderation. Yes, you still have to track it, and you still have to make sure you're in your calorie deficit.
And understand sort of where you're at.
Otherwise, you're never going to lose body fat if you give 3 bottles of wine a night. Not going to happen, is it? Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, guys. Disappoint you.
Sorry about that.
But yeah, I think it's sort of being real, but also like, not sweating too much of the small stuff. I think if that's your thing, and I always say to clients, like I always say to them when they first join coaching, what's your thing that you love? And I think I had a client that was like, oh, just on a bad day I end up going for the crisps and hummus, so on a meal plan I put some pop chips and hummus in. And she was like, oh. I was like, which is pretty cool. And again, like with anything in that coaching, and that progression that you want, whether it's in a dieting phase or in a building phase, which is pretty awesome too, especially now we're heading into the winter months. And you're investing into your lifestyle, your progress, the long-term progress that you see. And I don't know sort of how it is for you and how you view your own journey in that sense. Like you work in those phases, and you know that actually each step or each day that you're doing, it's a good thing for that.
Yeah, and I think it's funny on a different spiral as well. I've always done sort of like the bulk cut, do you know what I mean, the last couple of years, and it's actually this year's going to be a bit different for me. I'm just going to sort of maintain being lean and have some more sort of athletic goals in a sense, do you know what I mean, in terms of running and stuff like that. And I think it doesn't matter where I am, but I always sort of need a goal. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And that goal can change.
Yeah, of course.
Like so many people are like, I must only do this and I must only do that.
Yeah.
But actually, sometimes you can think, actually, I just want to kind of sit back on one thing but push another, like you say, especially for the athletic side of things. And you've done quite a lot, because you did the marathon a couple of years ago. Like you've done quite a lot of different kind of stuff, and you've done shoots. So it's probably quite interesting to sort of push and integrate that a little bit this year.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, I've done London Marathon twice, and I've done 3 photo shoots now. So yeah,
amazing.
And again, I always joke with people and friends and stuff. I say, not ridiculously peeled. It's not what I'm about. And the same with the marathons, not ridiculously quick. But at the same time, I always think at the end of the day, same going back to coaching, I've done it. I know what it feels like. I know what the training's like. I know what running 20 miles like on my own feels like. Do you know what I mean? It's like you've been there, you've done it. And I think again, it helps you relate. And I always think, like I said earlier, like if you push yourself to those limits, if you've experienced those dark times, you know what other people are going through. Where some lad who's just got abs who thinks he's a coach who's never done anything hard. It sounds really bad, but you need to know how it feels, and then you can really relate to your clients.
And I think sometimes that's when you've probably had clients as well that have come to you being like, oh, I've had this previous coach, we've done this, and this.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does take time to find your person. And in that sense, you want to find the people who are relatable to you, the things that the coaches that have done similar things to what your goals are. And in that sense, because you're already going to be on that level with them. And it's also okay to sort of realize that person's necessarily not for you. And I've had it with clients being like, this was a different approach. And I say that's never, obviously don't ever diss necessarily completely another coach, but that's not how I approach things. That's not sort of the way that I want to push results for my team more than anything else.
Yeah. And I think that as well is same with social media. That goes back to the energy you give out, the energy you get back. I think that's true in any way, in terms of how nice you are to people, you get it back, but also in terms of, again, social media. I'm very careful about what I say and the topics I talk about, because if I'm talking, I am not going to talk about wine and beer if I don't drink alcohol. I'm not going to make it just because it's trending. I genuinely will have a beer on a Friday night and I'll fit it in, or if I don't fit it in, I'm screwed. All right, you know what I mean? I've messed up. It is what it is. Again, I'm relatable, but I would not speak about it. And I think people do this just because it's trending, because I don't want to gain loads. Say I talk about cheese and wine. I don't have cheese and wine, so I'm not going to talk about that, because I don't want to gain 10,000 followers who like cheese and wine, because you don't relate to them. Do you know what I mean? So it comes back to
100%. And you just want sort of how, like, we come across on social media and even stuff like podcasts and things. And I always think that for anyone listening, and for the guests that I have on here, is being relatable, and all of the people sort of coming on board, you want it to come across sort of in the same sense of, this is probably a similar conversation to we would have in the gym,
Yeah, actually is,
which is always really nice. And I think, we do all bounce off of each other and what we learn from, like, what we put on socials, because that's a whole part of the business itself, which I think people forget about, which is, pretty cool. And it's pretty cool for you to delve into it as well, because I know obviously a lot of your videos have gone like crazy, but it's also sometimes you always don't realise actually what people do relate to, because you post one video and you think, oh, this is going to do really well, and then you post something else and you're like, oh, everyone loves it.
literally, like I've said to loads of people, like, if you look back 6 months ago in January, I changed my sort of strategy, I guess, and really started trying, because I was really bad at, like, I was all like, look, I'm results driven, I'm results, don't care how many followers I've got, I just want results. And in this video, I thought, put your ego aside, Charlie. Followers are going to help you build your business, help more people. So that I really switched. But when I look back to January, I was trying so hard, moving shots, changing scenes, walking around, all this stuff. And the ones that have gone viral, I'm literally sat at my kitchen table, sat still the whole time. you just wouldn't believe it. But again, and now I'm literally like, if I think of an idea, I film it, I post it, and I try not overthink it, because, like, exactly what you just said, the ones that I didn't think would go mad have gone mad.
Yeah.
You can never predict it, in my opinion.
And it must be pretty cool to sort of have that many people just like relate and comment and sort of be in tune and be like, oh, actually, this is exactly what I'm thinking, or actually I needed that perspective, because I think, like you say, a lot of people do have this perspective on food and certain drinks and all sorts, and you're like, well, it's just, don't sweat the small stuff. I think my dad, was it yesterday, he was like, oh, what's the name of this low calorie or no added sugar bread? And I was like, I mean, it's probably not much different to normal bread. And he was like, no, it is. And I was like, have a look. And actually, I think perceptions like this, especially from marketing from those sort of companies, they put, oh, no added sugar, or, low sugar this, or, high protein. Actually, sometimes, when we start scanning stuff and getting in tune with you think, oh, there's not actually that much difference. Obviously, yes, we want to push the protein and stuff, but just it's interesting when we sort of view foods and view drinks and stuff and actually think, oh, it's fine.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, yeah, because I've been doing alcohol content, a few of them have done well. And again, I've never experienced this in my life, but I've been getting messages from a few different drinks brands, things like that. And get this, I got it sounds really bad, but to be real, I got a message from it was like a low sugar gin or low calorie gin, something branded like that. Me, I've clicked on the website, stalked them, gone around the macros, compared it to like one of my dad's gins on the side at home.
Yeah.
And his was lower calorie. And I was like, I felt really bad, but I didn't reply. But I was like, how you just need to be so careful. Like they're promoting low sugar, low calorie gin. And the reality is you'd actually be better off. It's like a protein. Yeah, it's like the protein bars that have 4 grams of protein. You'd be better off just not having a protein bar. You know what I mean? It's like you'd be better off having normal gin, having a hangover, and just getting back on it the next day.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly that. And I think it does sort of open people's eyes. And for anyone listening, if you're curious about the low sugar, high protein, whatever you've got in the cupboard, take a peep at it and compare it to something else. Yeah. Obviously, as well, it's hard to know that because you don't. Because for people who don't understand about high protein and macros and what the hell they are, actually they see that stuff and they're like, yes, it's good. Yes, I must have that. And it's really interesting when you start to delve into that. And ultimately, that's why I guess we love our job, is it's educating so much for you guys. And it's really cool when you get to go nerd and you get to analyze these stuff to explain to clients. And actually, I think they then sit back and go, oh, this is really helpful for my journey. This is so much more helpful for me to understand and not demonize going out for dinner or having a drink. Like, chill, breathe. Especially when you've got your coach to sort of be able to help you approach those times. And
I always say, I said to someone checking earlier, I always say to people as well, in terms of a little bit more laid back approach, and don't get me wrong, if someone's on a shoot prep, I'm on it. They're not doing this and they're not doing that, and that's how things should be. But at the same time, I would say, look, at the end of the day, if you're being more chill, that's totally fine. But you just need to make sure that you're on track. You still need to make sure that certain things are being met. Because at the end of the day, I always say I say straight to them, you're paying me for a result. Do you know what I mean? No matter how quickly you want that result, you're paying me for a result, and that is my job. So I'm going to be more chilled out, but at the same time, I want you to get there. And one thing I always say as well is there's no point looking good and not being able to go anywhere. Do you know what I mean?
Show it off.
So you've got to, like, if they say, oh, I've got to go this, I've got a family event, look, go. I'll teach you how to manage it. I'll show you how to manage it. But there is no point you going through this program if you're not going to be able to go out afterwards and eat anything. What's the point? If you can't go to the beach club and have 4 Peronis, what is the point of having abs? There's no point. And
it's cool. Like, it's cool to have them, and it's cool to embrace those shreds. Obviously, you don't ever want to do that for like hold that deficit and that shoot prep for all year round,
forever,
but it's good, and you want to embrace it as well, because that's part of the confidence side of things. I want, when my clients send me selfies of them out and I'm like, yes, you feel on top of the world, this is all I want, which is pretty awesome. And the same for us, it's cool, and that's why I love the shoots. There are some coaches out there that demonize shoots, but actually I think, it's for confidence, like show it off.
Unreal. And the coaches who demonize them, again, will be coaches who've never done them, because in light, you might look at it's funny because I'm probably a bit different now, because my content maybe goes against shoots, but I do them. Does that make sense? I'm very chilled out, but shoots aren't chilled out, and I'll be honest with that. But I've kind of taken it as a jokey. It's funny, I had a call with James Smith. I paid him for a call, again, another like mentor and invest yourself sort of thing. And he said to me, and this was actually mad, he said to me, because I was like, I'm going in a bit of a different route, but I still like the shoots, and if someone wants to do a shoot, I'll pay for him to do a shoot. And he was like, look, at the end of the day, mate, just take the piss out of it. And I was like, what? And he was like, do this. And anyway, mate, he helped me make a reel, and he said, actually play on it. He said, joke about it. Everyone knows they got fake tan on. He was like, everyone knows they're oiled up, but it doesn't take away from the fact there's an amazing transformation. And I made a reel, and I was like, look, this is Harry's transformation. Yes, he's got loads of fake tan on. Yes, I loved oiling him up, but he looks bloody good. Do you know what I mean? And he was like, play on the facts. He was like, it's funny, mate.
And it's cool. And I had obviously, bestie / bride and groom to be back in June, and they both coached with me, and it was hilarious. They hated me the week of the shoot because of how much they had to like layer up the tanning lotion, and it was really cool for them to embrace that. And actually, they said to me when they started, they said, oh well, there is actually a couple of events that we have to kind of go to because it's their stag and hen. And I was like, obviously,
it's fine.
I'm not taking that away from you on a shoot prep. And they both smashed it. And I think, in a lot of my team, yes, we have to be mindful of certain events that we go to, but for certain things, like you're not going to take that away.
Yeah, like a birthday. I had that yesterday, for example. Lad was worried about going for his birthday. I was like, mate, go out for your birthday. Do you know what I mean? I was like, obviously,
Please have a cupcake.
If you've got a shoot in a week, and again, it's all perspective, isn't it? If you've got a shoot in 2 weeks, look, sorry, mate, chill out a little bit, and then we can go out after your birthday and go and just shoot and go mad. But at the same time, if someone's 12 weeks out from their goal and it's their birthday, look, your birthday comes once a year, mate. Just go and enjoy it. Have a few beers, and if you need to pull it back the next day, that's fine. Do you know what I mean? Don't worry about it.
We'll control it. And it's having that communication as much as possible.
Yeah, it's being honest, I think, as well.
And actually being like, look, I know this is the case, but I'm keeping this in. And this is what I'm doing to achieve the goals that we want to achieve. I think that was sums things up pretty well in terms of, I guess, the journey to where you are, the stuff that you do, and also into sort of what you offer for your team, and also where you're at. And it is being relatable, and I think, which is pretty cool. But where can people find you? If they want to get a hold of you, if they want to ask you a question, if they want to ask you about your crazy wine videos.
It's literally Instagram, Charlie Ley, Ley's Ley, and then it's just Charlie Ley anywhere, basically. There
you go. And obviously I will tag Charlie in the video and in the description, which is awesome. And obviously more clips from this will be shared on our socials. And if you do have any questions for us, do let me or Charlie know. Thank you so much for joining. Hopefully you're welcome to come back on again. And obviously thank you for joining today. And
thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And we shall see you hopefully on the next episode. A big thank you for joining me on my channel and tuning in. Find me on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, Amazon and YouTube at Diary to Empower. Follow me on Instagram, m_power.fitness and TikTok, m.ibert. See you on the next episode.